Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
You ready? There we go. All right, hello and welcome to Podcast versus Everyone, the inaugural episode. I am Craig Powers of KooksAir.com, and with me is my good friend Jeff Newster. Say hello, Jeff.
Hello, Jeff. That was predictable, wasn't it?
I know, but hey, we're not here to please anyone. So
that's right. That's kind of the idea, isn't it?
So basically, so why are we doing this? Basically, we spend plenty of time chatting on GChat and Slack all day. Let's just talk on the phone a little bit and record it and make people listen to it. That's what I'm thinking.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too. And I was like, we could talk about kind of whatever we want.
Yeah.
And if people don't like it, then that's okay. I'm okay with that.
It's just for us, really.
That's right.
And so it's a WSU podcast, sorta, because you probably are listening because you follow us on WSU related topics. But also, we're going to talk about other stuff. And don't worry, when we do that, we'll tell you, and you can leave.
Yeah.
You might already be gone after you hear my voice. Might be putting you to sleep. So to get started today, I think we'll make this a tradition. I don't think anyone should podcast without a drink in their hand. So I'm going to start with our what you drinking subject, or what you drinking segment. So Jeff, what you drinking?
So this will give you some sense of just how low quality this whole endeavor is going to be. Right now, I am not drinking beer, and I know. See, I told you I had a surprise for you. This is the surprise. All right, so most people, I would imagine, if you're listening to this, you probably know who we are, right? You probably didn't just stumble onto this. So you might already know that I am a middle-aged man of 41, right? And certain things come along with being a middle-aged man of 41, like, I don't know, like adding pounds, So with it being January, now I'm not doing like dry-uary, which I didn't even know was a word, but I learned that in the last week, that like dry-uary is a thing. So it's not like that, but I am partnering with my lovely wife, and we have gone keto, like a number of other people. Yes, I know. And this is like as of Monday. So I'm like 2 days into this thing.
Now, did you consult with your doctor before going keto?
I did not consult with my doctor, but I bet my doctor would be happy with pretty much anything I do to lose some weight. So I'm like, so we're like 2 days into this thing, and I kind of want a beer, but I'm also like, I'm only 2 days into this thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until like Sunday maybe, and then I'm just going to go for it and whatever, ruin the whole thing for a day. So what I can talk about is what's in my fridge that is calling my name for Sunday. So what I picked up was
it's not Sunday, in case you haven't figured that out. It's Sunday.
It's Wednesday. So
you may be listening to this on Sunday, though.
That is true. So good clarification. So I got to make it till Sunday. And what I have in the fridge is a barrel-aged vanilla worldwide stout by Dogfish Head.
Yes. That is a hefty, I believe, 18%. So that's one way to just kind of jump overboard. Like, hey, I'm not drinking, but now I'm drinking everything.
Yeah. And I'm in a when you and I talk, you always talk about our beer journeys, right? And it's like, and me to be, and our listeners will find out as we go, know me to be really an IPA guy, and particularly New England IPAs, hazy IPAs. I love those. But now I've just, with it being winter, I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm like all about like the barrel aged stouts right now. Like, give me that like 10+% warm.
This is Jeff when we first started friends, and I was trying to even get him into IPAs. It was like Alaskan Amber, and now he's got his pinky up on the tulip glass.
That's
You're like,
right.
I just like a barrel aged stout,
That's
like
right. That's
just
right.
something simple, you know, just something barrel aged. It's winter. I like my
I know.
beer
No,
seasonal.
Sarah and I we went to Bend for our anniversary just to like get out of town and go see some snow and hang out. And I went to Deschutes and had some Abyss 2016. And I'm sitting there drinking it, and this couple from California is like, "Do you guys have Coors Light?" And I'm like, "Or what's most like a Coors Light here?" So I kind of helped him out, and then I got him to get an Abyss. So there we go.
Oh, look at you.
My work as a beer evangelist was done that day.
That's like my disciple has disciples
That's
now.
right. That's right.
So like in the kingdom of beer heaven, I'm just reaping so many rewards now. That's how that works,
That's
right?
right. You are expanding your beer kingdom in heaven.
Yes. So
So what are you drinking? What you drinking?
I assume you're
I'm sure
drinking
it's
coffee.
expensive.
I think
Bad.
you told me you were
Yes. Yeah.
nuking
So
some coffee.
in lieu, I reheated
So
my coffee in lieu of
microwaved
drinking beer.
coffee. Like
Yeah, it's
you're this raising the standards
the
here.
staple of any teacher.
So you know me, and I have way too many beers.
I do know that.
You've seen the mess downstairs in the basement. So I had this beer that I've had for a long time. Not as old. I haven't had it for as long as old as it is. So like about 4 years ago, a friend bought this for me for Christmas, I think, and it's actually a beer from 2009, and the reason for that is I started writing for Kook Center in 2009,
Oh, that's
and Jeff and
nice.
I have been friends since 2009. So
Oh,
I have a almost 10-year-old beer that I'm rocking here. And it's a beer that I'm sure you've had, and it's a beer that I probably would have loved to get my hands on in 2009. And it's Stone Double Bastard.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Totally had
I
that.
haven't had
Yeah.
one of these beers for years,
Oh,
and I
that's
definitely
great.
haven't had one that's 10 years old. And it is a big guy. It's 10.5%. I thought that Amanda was gonna share it with me before she went to bed,
But
but no, I'm taking down this 10.5% bomber myself. So by the end of this podcast, I'm gonna be probably a little funnier or a little angrier. We'll see how it goes. So yeah,
and by the way, for people who don't know you, that's like literally a 50-50 proposition.
yeah, yep. And we might talk about politics, so we'll see where that goes. So yeah, this beer. I guess you'll be. No, I want you to rate your cup of coffee too. Uh, so for every time we have a beer on this, uh, be, to honor our Lord and Savior Gardner Minshew, I wanted to integrate him into the podcast in some way. Um, so I wanted to put we rate our beers or whatever we're drinking on a Gardner Minshew scale. And what does that mean? That means you just relate your beer to any Gardner Minshew item, Gardner Minshew play, game, moment, anything, a naked jockstrap, stretching, anything like that. So Jeff, where would you rate? If you think about it, where would you rate your coffee on a
Yeah.
Gardner scale?
So it's funny is I'm pretty snobby about my coffee, just like I am about my beer. But I'm also like not necessarily into like really expensive, fancy coffee, right? So honestly, my favorite coffee is like, and this is like gonna sound crazy, but my favorite coffee is just the Dunkin' Donuts medium blend. Like that is my favorite coffee in the world to make at home. So I'm thinking my Dunkin' Donuts cup of coffee is like a routine 8 yard completion on a mesh. It's just like it's solid. It's there. We're gonna go to it like 5, 6 times a day because I'm a teacher and that's what I do. I drink so much coffee, and I'm like, yeah, and it never fails to deliver, just like the mesh.
Excellent. I've been thinking about my rating here, and I gotta tell you, I thought this beer, like, I didn't know what to expect. I honestly thought it was. I don't really like this beer fresh anymore. It's just too much of a bitter malty bomb. Like, it's basically just like Like it's like a souped up American barley wine. So there's English barley wine, which is more balanced, and then American barley wines, which are really hoppy. And of course, it's a stone beer, so it's really hoppy. I'm pretty amazed at how bitter it still is, even though it's 10 years old, because usually some of that fades.
Right.
But on the nose, it's gotten super barley winey. Like it's kind of, and I'm into that style quite a bit. So and it's even got the color. So it's really is just kind of turned into like an American barley wine, which is actually a lot better. It's a lot better than I expected. It's still a little cold. I just cracked it up open right before we started. So I'm looking forward to as how it develops as it warms up through this podcast. So I'm thinking like it's got to be something early, kind of the first touchdown pass that Gardner threw that when he rolled out, right, tossed it to Booby. You're like, hey. Uh, what is this mobility? What is
Yeah.
like? What is this escapability? That there's something here, and
This is
I'm
a
looking forward
pleasant
to
surprise.
when this warms up and gets a little better. Like, or it warms up, it might even be even better. So that's what I'm thinking. Like that touchdown pass to Booby had me feeling that pretty good about when this warms up. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's how I'm rating my beer.
I like that.
So now that we're all happy and thinking about happy memories of Gardner Minshew, I want to like make sure to, as I said, I like balanced beer. I like the balanced English barley wine. So we need to bring some balance to this podcast. And so let's start off with our Talking WSU segment by, of course, talking about our favorite team of all, the WSU basketball team. Yeah, I know. It's so fun. Like, it's funny when we started this. When we started writing on Coug Center, it was terrible to write about the football team, and the
Right.
basketball team was the only thing that was fun to
Was
write about.
really good. And it's funny, like what made me want to, do this podcast with you was that it's like, you're probably feel the same way I do about this, which is it's really hard to convince yourself to invest the time to write seriously about the basketball team.
Yeah,
Like, because they're so bad, and it's hard because I want them to be good, and I want to like them, and I want a lot of things. And I'm sure, one of the things I always come back to is I'm sure the young men on the team are wonderful young men, and I'm sure they are, trying their very hardest, and it's not their fault that Ernie gave them a scholarship, right? And
right.
so it's just kind of like but it's like only so many times you can write this team's really terrible, and here's like the 18 reasons
Yeah.
why they stink. And so anyway, I just thought maybe it'd be more fun if we just, I don't know, talk for 10 minutes about why they stink. I don't know.
Oh yeah, like what's funny is that you go to KenPom, you look at their player page, you look at their advanced stats, and there's a lot of guys that have some decent looking advanced stats. Like Ahmed Ali's got a 110 O rating, which is like, oh, that sounds like an ideal point guard. His 25 assist rate, better than his turnover rate, all this stuff. But then you do, same thing with like Marvin Cannon and Carter Skaggs. Is like they have good looking stats, but then you click on them, like you dig deeper and you look at conference only. So
Right.
their non-conference schedule was so bad. It was
So
almost
bad.
the worst in the country. And so that kind of made it, that was, honestly, a lot of these players would be very good in the America East or the MEAC or anything like that. But they're definitely not Pac-12 players. Even in a Pac-12 this year, which you and I were talking about the other day, is awful. Like
Horrendously awful.
it's as bad as it has been in the KenPom era, and it's had some really bad years in the KenPom era. So,
It has.
and so and there's even there's a very very real possibility that's a one bid league, and here we are hoping that maybe they can grab 4 wins out of
Yeah.
that out of that league.
Yeah, and what kind of struck me is as I was kind of looking through stuff, and and a lot of people, and I'm sure Ernie's gonna, he already has talked about the injuries that they've had this year, and they've been dinged up at times.
Yep.
The biggest one obviously is Robert Franks has missed 5 games. And they've had other ones. Viontae Daniels was out for whatever 4 games. Isaiah Wade was out for a few games. So sure, okay. So they've dealt with some injuries, but it's also like you know what you find you should be able. Well, number one, you should be able to survive those things against the non-conference schedule that they put together. right? I mean, which
Right.
was, a series of like sub 250 Ken Palm type teams. Like we're talking like the bottom, 10% or 20% of all of Division One,
Yeah,
right?
you
Is
shouldn't be losing to Montana State, Santa
shouldn't be losing
Clara,
to Seattle, shouldn't be losing
Seattle.
to Santa Clara, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of go through that. And so it's true that but what Frank's absence has sort of revealed, which is sort of really depressing, and maybe like, the biggest indictment of Ernie Kent is that the rest of the roster is like a low major
Hmm.
roster. Like it's kind of crazy. They've dropped, whatever, 40 spots or whatever in the Ken Palm rankings since Franks got hurt. Their offense is terrible. They've got the worst offense and the worst defense in conference play, on a per possession basis in
Hmm.
the Pac-12, and we've already established the Pac-12 is awful. So it's like, they're really, really, really bad. The rest of the roster he's assembled is really a series of guys who belong, playing at, I mean, I don't know, Santa Clara. I mean, Santa Clara, Delaware State, Cal Poly, the kinds of teams,
Yeah.
Cal State Northridge, we're talking the kinds of teams that they played earlier this year. So anyway, it's hard. It's hard to watch. And I guess we're getting a sense of what the team would have looked like if Franks had gone to the draft, but
Yep.
you know,
Yeah, and it's crazy, how bad they've been without him. That like, if you we always like to compare things to when we thinking of badness is the Paul Graham era, and it's like uh they are way worse than any Paul Graham team without Franks. Like they are
yeah,
way worse,
yeah,
and they're only maybe slightly better than a Paul Graham team with Robert Franks. So like they're yeah, Ernie's been incredibly fortunate because his team has been roughly at that level the entire time. He's been pretty fortunate that he's played in some pretty bad Pac-12s because he's gotten some 6 wins, 7 wins, 4 or 5 wins. Like he's had one really really bad season in terms of wins, but
and
if
that
when
and that was the one year that the Pac-12
Pac-12
wasn't
was
horrendous.
yeah. It's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out this year because that Utah game at Utah was one of the ones that like maybe you could steal, even though
Yeah,
we never win there. But we Utah at home. Like, so if you're looking ahead to this weekend, I'm already I'm prepping for the turning around improvement narrative because they're playing when they have Franks, they're playing the one team in the Pac-12 that is somehow worse than them. Uh, like
right.
like you wouldn't think there would be two sub like 200 ranked plus teams in the Pac-12, but there is. And Cal is definitely a low major. They might be a low major team that's pushing for the top half of their league, but they're just really bad. And I they actually this is WSU should beat Cal if Franks is playing. If Franks doesn't play, I'd probably lean Cal, but if Franks is playing, I can see them getting a win there. But after that, it's just a lot of games where they're going to
Yeah.
be heavily underdogs even at home. Ken Palm picks 4 wins in aggregate, but there's only one they're actually favored at.
Favored, which is Cal
Yeah.
on Thursday. It's not crazy to think that they might actually win both games this weekend.
Yep.
Um, Cal, they should beat Cal with Franks. And by the way, the Cal game might actually be reasonably entertaining to watch, to
Yeah,
be
I think
honest,
so. Yeah.
because you're going to have two really horrible, horrible, horrible defenses, right? I mean, the WSU defense ranks 294th in adjusted defensive efficiency, and Cal ranks 337th. And so, and these are, if what's so crazy about it is like a high major team should be able to like really not do anything and still be like a top 150
Yeah.
defense, but it really just kind of shows the lack of athletes is really what that kind of is.
Hmm.
And so, but
Wait,
both
wait, wait,
teams,
wait, wait. Lack of athletes. I'm pretty sure that WSU is long and athletic.
Oh, long and athletic. Dang it. Sorry. So maybe Cal is lacking athletes. WSU is not.
They must be
Obviously.
short and unathletic. I
Right,
don't.
right. That's it. So anyway, at least it might be entertaining. And Stanford, Stanford is kind of up and down. Although they picked up a pretty decent win here last week. So, but that's like Ken Palm's even calling that one a coin flip.
Yeah,
So more or less a coin flip. I think it's 45% or something. But anyway,
yeah.
more or less a coin flip. So anyway, yeah, I mean, could be entertaining. And I just know that if they win both those games, that Ernie's going to be insufferable. I know that. He's going to say,
Oh
see,
yeah,
see,
yeah. See,
see, I
we're
told you.
building something,
We're
but then
building
but
something.
then they're going to Oregon, the Oregon schools next week, and they're
And
gonna
they'll,
get walloped.
so next week,
Even
so
if Franks plays, like
yeah,
they're
I
gonna
mean, we
get
can talk
walloped.
about this next week, but like just off the top of your head, what's the combined is the combined loss margin next week against the Oregon schools more or less than the combined loss margin of last week against Utah and Colorado?
I think it'll be less because Franks is playing. I
That's fair.
think, yeah, I think you won't see the 30-point loss. I mean, they pulled back on Utah in the second half because LB got a little hot, and
Yeah.
but but that was a 30-point game for a long time,
Yeah.
and
One thing I'm actually curious about is to see if the defense is actually any better with Franks. I've kind of poo-pooed that a little bit,
yeah,
but I've written that a few times that that Franks is, yeah, he's a great scorer, but the defense is still horrendous.
he's a
Um,
he's a
but
decent rebounder. He's definitely
yeah,
probably their best rebounder, him and
yeah,
Ellaby.
and he is long. I mean that he
Yeah,
does have that. He can maybe defend some
his
guys in
father. Yeah.
ways, yeah, that other people can't. And I know that like sometimes it's hard to like it's sort of like a signal and a noise thing, right? It's like what's what, and is this is the really horrible defense the last three games without Franks, or is the really horrible defense because they're playing much better teams? Like so I don't know. That's
But
gonna be
the funny
interesting.
thing is that like Utah is not a good team.
No,
And I think before WSU played them coming in, they were in the 150s. They got a nice bump because they out overperformed the expectation against Utah. But they're not a good team, and historically, even on the road, you should be able to beat a number 150 team. Any Pac-12 school should.
should.
But that just shows how bad. Because I'll just read off some rankings. I'm looking at them. Utah 137, Cal 233, Stanford 129, USC 100. Like those, and then WSU, 204. That's almost half the Pac-12 is, uh, you know, over half
Yep.
of the Pac-12 is 100 and over,
I
and
know
you
it's
and
insane.
like a good, even a decent high major conference should have pretty much every team in the top 100, and maybe a whipping boy at the bottom that's 150 or something. That's usually how it goes. Because I think you look back when I'm trying to think what year Oregon State went 0 and 18. Like they they weren't
They were better
they
than
were
what
like
we are right now,
140 or something. Like it was, and now they'd be like in the middle of the pack in the
right?
Pac-12. Well, even they're talking about Oregon State winning the Pac-12 this year, and they're 64.
Right,
And usually the top Pac-12 team is in the top 10 or at
right,
least top 15. And
right.
so there's not even a really good team. Like that's why when we talk about a one big conference, like the only way this conference is getting two bids is if Washington or Oregon or Oregon State wins, or Arizona State like wins 15 plus games,
Right.
and they have to win at Arizona, they have to win um, at Oregon State, you have to win at Oregon, at Washington, you have to win like those games,
Yeah.
other because I was I follow a guy named Sam Vicente on Twitter, and
Yep.
he's of our wonkiness, and he talked about how there's only three opportunities for what the NCAA calls like a quadrant one win, which is basically same as like an old top 50 win, but now it's adjusted for home and away, and that's at Washington, at Oregon State, potentially home against Washington, and then at Arizona, and that's the only like there's only three like top 50 wins you can get in,
Right.
in the Pac-12, and usually you have an opportunity for at least like 6 to 8 even 10. Like in the Tony Bennett years, you just
pretty much every
you'd
week.
stumble into 4 just by like accidentally
Yeah.
winning some games. Like
Right.
and it's but now it's just there's just not an opportunity for even because none of the aside from Arizona State, none of the teams got any decent wins in the non-conference, and so you have this where they're not going to get any credit for any other wins in the league games. So it's only if one team runs the table almost and then loses in the conference championship game that
Right.
maybe you'll have 2 teams from the Pac-12.
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, you'd have to have 2 teams standing above everyone, or one team just so thoroughly dominating everybody, and then some other team beats them in the championship game, right?
Yeah.
The Pac-12 championship. I mean, it really is crazy. I'm looking at the rankings of the according to Ken Palm of the conferences, and it's like, so for people who maybe don't follow college basketball that closely, there's really what are considered sort of 6 major conferences. So in football there's 5, right? In basketball you've got the 5 major conferences plus the Big East. And right now the Pac-12 is 6th, and it is barely ahead of the American Athletic Conference. like barely ahead. Like they are closer to 7 than they are to 5. A lot closer to 7.
And typically it's the top 6 are well above. And
Right,
then
way above everybody else.
like the AAC has definitely gotten up better, but like
Right.
like drawn it closer because that's kind of a lot some of the old Big East teams and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, that ranking goes by your average, the average difference of adjusted offensive efficiency minus adjusted defensive efficiency. So it's essentially how many more points are you scoring than your opponents against an average. If you're playing an average opponent, if how many more points would you score than them over 100 possessions? And
Right.
so an average opponent in college basketball is essentially someone like WSU, and so Pac-12 is like 6 points. So that means like on average, the Pac-12 would be a team as bad as WSU by 6 points, which is not
Right.
good because it should be like
No.
15.
Yes.
Like when it's good, it's like 14 or 15.
Right.
And that 9-point difference is a lot stretched out over average of 12 teams. Obviously, WSU brings that down, and Cal brings
a
that down.
lot. A lot.
But we've just seen like it's funny. You and I have talked about this a lot. Like, and I don't really want to get into this too much, but if those Tony Benn teams were playing in this conference, they'd be going 16-2. They'd be winning the conference, like running away. But you could say the same for any of those teams, like any of the Pac-10 teams back then. Like if they
Right.
were dropped, if I think like Arizona was like winning like 9 or 10 games in league back then. If you drop them in this league, like with some of the guys they had back then, they would just be destroying teams. And
Yep.
now it's just it is what it is, and it's kind of weird because you just don't like. Is this kind of like our new normal in the Pac-12, or like because it doesn't seem like a lot of teams are rising, or
Yeah.
like
I don't know, to be honest. I was just kind of thinking about just kind of how bad West Coast basketball is in general.
Yep.
Like, it used to be the Midwest or Mountain West Conference used to be, really one of the top sort of mid-major. In fact, they were so top mid-major, they were like, we're not mid-major.
yeah,
Right?
they were getting like 4
Yeah,
bids,
but
like 4
between
to 5 bids.
2 and 4
Yeah.
bids was pretty regular for them.
Yeah.
I remember one time when I was working on a story for, I don't know, it was ESPN or Basketball Prospectus or something, and I talked to Steve Fisher, the old San Diego State coach, and I made the mistake of saying mid-major, and I did that one time with Leon Rice too, out of Boise State, the guy who we wanted to be our coach, right? And said mid-major, and he sort of let me have it. I'm like, okay, right? But now it's like, yeah, the Pac-12 is kind of a notch above a mid-major conference at the moment, maybe.
Yeah, it's only because you have
in
it's
name
because
and
you have
revenue
those like
only.
but like yeah, like it's you have those like teams that are bundled around 40 to 70, and that's
Yeah,
something that mid-major doesn't always have. But
right.
What makes the Pac-12 different is usually have those teams that are in the top 25.
Yeah,
And they don't have that. And they're not going to have that the entire year. Like there's no way like UW would just have to destroy teams because UW's the highest ranked right now on KenPom, and they're 48. And then I think on the net rating, which is the official NCAA rating, the new one, I think they're
Yeah.
46. So
I
like
mean,
there's like no chance for any like to even
no.
like, and 46 is a bubble team. Like that's if you're 46 and you don't have a strong schedule, you're not getting a bid. You're
Right.
not
Or a
getting
signature win or
there's
it's
yeah.
just something like that.
And UW didn't have a second when they had one, they had a chance against Gonzaga and they didn't get it, and
Yeah.
they have no other chance because the rest of their schedule. I mean, they played some other these teams, but they didn't pick up anything really
Yeah.
popping.
I mean, out west, and I guess maybe we could just leave it here, but it's like just think about this. It's Gonzaga, it's Nevada,
Hmm.
and that's it.
Yep.
Like that is it.
No Arizona, no UCLA, no Stanford, no
Arizona's not good.
like
I mean,
Oregon, Washington. Like it's
Oregon, Washington. Oregon, I think could have gotten there if they had Bol if he had not gotten hurt. But yeah,
yeah.
it's sad. It's super sad.
Well, yeah. I think that's enough about basketball.
Yeah, go Cougs.
Yeah,
Beat
that was
Cal.
I'm impressed though. We talked about basketball for like 20 minutes.
We
Like
did.
that's so here's the point in the podcast that Jeff and I were most excited about. It's the part where we say we're going to warn you because we're not going to talk. We might reference WSU because we think and talk about it so much, but the rest of the podcast is going to be about politics, about pop culture, about parenting, and about whatever the heck else we want to talk about. And I will warn some of you, our coastal elite tendencies, you may not appreciate hearing some of our opinions on things. So if you just wanted to hear the WSU stuff, I'm not offended. I don't care. This is podcast versus everyone. We do not care. Go ahead and turn it off right now. That's totally fine. But what I'm going to segue into now is the segment we are calling Coastal Elites, where Jeff and I, which is what we do pretty much every day, is we've been talking about them politics, and Jeff and I are fairly like-minded. Me coming from the liberal haven of Yakima, and Jeff being that traditionally liberal base of being a devout Christian man.
Yeah.
And both of us are white, so I'm just very, your standard
Standard liberal.
standard liberal profiles. But yeah, so I was kind of thinking we've been having a little fun this week with some of this Brexit stuff. I'm just thinking like what's like I'm just looking at Theresa May and like she basically backed she was looking for a horse to back and she backed the wrong horse and then didn't really know what to do about it. She ended up being the Prime Minister of Great Britain, so congrats. And now she is universally.
Is it congrats though? Is it congrats? I'm not sure
but now
about
she's
this.
universally hated, like universally hated.
Like her own party hates her.
Her own party hates her. The other party hates her. Her own party won't even approve her bills, which some of this sounds pretty familiar to us in the U.S. So, and I was kind of thinking, be wary of siding with the dude with weird blondish hair. And when you're thinking about politics,
we're talking about Boris.
Yeah, Boris. If we're looking at some American counterparts, think about guys like Michael Cohen and Paul Manafort.
Yeah.
Maybe they're probably not pleased with their decisions on who to back at this point. When they're going to be sitting in their jail cells. But obviously Teresa is not having that hard of a time. But I will say that it looks like Boris is still behind her, which isn't enough to get her Brexit bill passed. But can you imagine just being like, well, everyone hates me. Like I can't even I can't even get this. This is my signature. The reason I'm prime minister and I can't even get it done, and now everyone hates me. Like,
Yeah, I don't know that anyone could have succeeded, though. I mean, obviously, look, I will readily admit that my knowledge of British politics is limited to whatever I hear on NPR or the BBC. So, so it's kind of like,
freaking
I'm,
liberal.
yeah, right. Is there anything more liberal than listening to NPR? Probably not. So, I'm
Uh,
like,
I mean, like you could go like Mother Jones
that's
podcast
true.
and
That
stuff.
is true. I
You go
could.
Daily Kos. Come on.
Yeah, that is true. I could go farther. So I'm a very, moderate liberal. I listen to NPR. I don't know, is that what it would be? So anyway, I'm kind of listening to this, right? And so what I know about British politics is sort of what I've picked up from there. And it really just seems like this all sort of stems back to like kind of immediate buyer's remorse over passing that stupid referendum. Like that it truly is just like they passed it and everybody just went, "Oh
Well, it's
no.
like the interviews you'd see the next day,
Wait
like.
a minute, what did we do?"
Yeah,
You know?
my favorite thing is when they just in broadcast news is when they just grab the random yokel
Right,
on the
dude on the
street,
street. Yep, dude on the
and he's
street.
like, and it's like they're like, I didn't know that that's what we were voting for.
Or I voted for it, but I really didn't think it would pass.
Oh yeah,
Like
it's like what?
and all of a sudden it's like so now they've got this and their system. So from the way I understand it, so you can correct me if you understand it better than I do, but
No, I
but
absolutely do
but they
not.
they're not a two-party system like we are.
No.
And so you've got this situation where you don't just you don't have these like large caucuses that you just sort of have to rally people behind one,
Yep.
one group of people behind a thing, right? And then maybe flip a few people from the other side and you're good to go. It's like she has to write a thing that pleases like, I mean, I don't know, what are we talking? 4 or 5 parties, something
Well,
like
yeah, because it's whoever has basically the most parliament seats, that's
controls the
that
government.
controls the government,
Right.
but it not necessarily is going to be a majority, and it's. I mean, typically, I think it would if a lot of times it works out so that they have enough seats and they can get things done, but like that's not always how it works, and so it becomes more like U.S. politics where there's different parties with, even if they're minority parties, they're having some power and sway over getting things, blocking things or preventing things from being passed. Like so, yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, yeah, like you mentioned with the Brexit, like it's so delicate and there's so many parts to it,
Right.
and there's
And
so many
you've
people
got
that
one
just
faction that doesn't want it, right? Their
and
hope
it's
is to
an
stall
ever
until
growing
kick back
faction,
to another
and
thing.
it's truthfully it's your most educated faction. Because most of the people, like I through my job and stuff, I know quite a few people from Great Britain, and they're typically like you know uh, they're pretty well, they're decently well off, they have university education, all this stuff, and they're so like my perspective on this is, all the British people I know are like, oh my God, I can't believe this, like this is insane. And but obviously, like it's a similar thing in the U.S. Like where there's this whole other group of people that are like, no, we want this, and but I think it's that group is not as strong as say like Trump's base is in the U.S. Like
Yeah.
they're not like there isn't like this staunch a Brexit group as there might be of like a Trump supporter group in the U.S. So it's
Right.
like because a lot of the people, there was so much misinformation from like Boris Johnson and his crew going up to the vote that a lot of people didn't know what they were voting for. And it's
Right.
funny, one of my best friends is British, and he was living in the U.S. at the time, and he just moved back to Belgium because he had lived there before, and he wanted to move back there, and they can freely move there still, and he had lived there when he was younger, so they wanted to move back before anything happened with Brexit, so they're hoping they can just stay, and because
like we'll get locked out of the
get
house or
locked in.
something.
Yeah, like they're like no, we just want to make sure that we can live in Europe. Because he doesn't, he's a Brit, but he doesn't want to live in Britain because he doesn't like it. And so like he hates London and he's got to live in
Yeah.
the city center and stuff. But it's like, but yeah. So it's funny, but he his like our November 8th, 2016 was their Brexit day. Like, and so,
Right.
but he got to do both because he was living in the U.S. and stuff too, because
What a lucky guy.
he's got an American wife. So,
That
but it's
What'd
funny,
that
like,
guy do to deserve that?
yeah,
Not the American wife. No, no, I'm sure she's wonderful. But I just mean like, the November 8th, the Brexit, that like this guy's getting like the worst of everything.
yeah. So he gets so he on like the moment Brexit passed, I get a message from him. He's like, Trump's getting elected, and I'm like, no, you shut up. That's not happening.
No,
Shut
that
up.
could never happen.
That could never happen. He's like, no, Trump's getting elected. I know it now. And I'm like, shut up. And then I got really nervous.
And then it happened.
It was right, which he loves, like, loves being right. So,
Like, told you so. I
like,
told you
thanks,
so.
man.
This is the alternate universe we're living in at the moment.
That's what this is, right?
Yeah. I will
Through
say
the
that,
transfer portal, and this is
yeah,
where we ended
the transfer portal. For me, it was like, it was kind of interesting because I don't know, like I had a sense that Brexit was a big deal, obviously, but like I kind of maybe didn't sense how big a deal it was until I listened to like I said, I was listening to the BBC broadcast on Monday from or yesterday, Tuesday, when it all went down, because I was home with a kid with a bum ankle, and so I'm listening to the radio all day, and just the guy introducing it is like, there are a lot of words out there and I can't even do the British accent. Maybe we should try British accents. That'll really get people to turn it off. But he's just like, I don't know how to say this without using a word that's overused. And so when I use the word historic, I promise you, I am not exaggerating. Like there was like this disclaimer at the beginning of the broadcast.
It's historic, then.
Yeah.
This Brexit nonsense.
Yeah.
That's my British accent. I apologize. Actually, I don't, because I don't care.
Yeah, we don't care.
Podcast versus everyone.
Yeah.
Podcast versus everyone.
Yeah. Darn right, mate. I don't know. Is that right? I don't know.
I don't know, mate. Is that Australian? Australian.
So, see, there we go. See, you can do Australian because you've been in Australia.
Yeah, I went to Australia, mate. We saw some kangaroos. We ate some Marmite, or no, I'm sorry, Vegemite.
Vegemite.
Marmite's the British one. We saw a wallaby.
That's pretty good, Craig.
It was pretty good. We went to the reef. I saw some fish. Rainbow fish. Well, I spent a month down there. I heard them talking to me. It's funny. The guy we stayed with though is for a week. I have a friend that lives there, but he's South African. A lot of Safas. They call them Safas. Moved to Australia because it's a much more the Safas call it a nappy state, which is a word for diapers. That's what they call diapers. And
right.
So they call it a nappy state. So the Safas moved to the nappy state because it's a little more organized than South Africa is. And so his accent's a little different. And I'm not even gonna try. But like but the Australia ones, they really get in there. That it goes more from the throat. If you're being racist about it.
See, now you're sounding kind of like Crocodile Dundee.
Well, that's what I meant when I said racist.
That's not a knife. This is a knife.
Drinking my double bastard. It's getting very good, by the way.
Yeah. I think, and by the way, just like if we can like just take a quick time out. I mean, I feel like a lot of beer drinkers don't know this, that actually it's okay sometimes to let your beer warm up a little bit.
It's actually, for many beer styles, it's better. If you're talking like an IPA, maybe like 45 degrees, you're good. So basically, if you're pulling it out of the fridge, about, after 5 or 10 minutes, it's probably going to be at its sweet spot. It depends on also the ABV of the IPA. If it's lighter, maybe a little colder. I mean, if you're drinking a lager, a good lager, just give me that cold and refreshing,
Sure.
But something like I'm having right now, which is just this, like, I don't know how many barley wines you've drank, Jeff, but they're like this kind of dark, deep amber color.
Yeah.
And it's just it has this, like, the head on it is just staying there. Like, it's not going anywhere. It's there to stay. You poured the beer, and it's just gonna sit like with the same head on it for an hour because it's like it's just so like it's actually I'm really impressed. I was ready to load up some like really negative Gardner play, like his like just something I never wanted to see again, like his first pick against my man. I'm like, oh wait, this beer's actually good. Like so, I'm having to
That's always a
intentionally.
nice surprise.
Yeah, I know. It's like I'm really excited that I drank it. We're off topic. I think we talked about Brexit enough.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about something really, really good, like super good, like so good you can taste it. Something like McDonald's Quarter Pounders
Oh yeah, two for
and
five.
and fast food salads.
Ooh, fast food salads, which by the way are one of our authors, who's also a trader, who's on a different podcast, uh, the Cougar Football Saturday Cast, which I would recommend. It's pretty good. It's better than this podcast.
For sure, better
But
than this podcast.
but because it has Kyle Sherwood,
That's
who
right.
claims that I don't know, it was like Southwest chicken salad at McDonald's is good, and I
Yeah,
just don't believe it.
I'm gonna openly question that assessment.
I think that's just an act of desperation. You're taking your kids there to get a Happy Meal, which
Yeah,
I haven't. My kid's only like one, so I haven't transitioned into the. I can't give that excuse of like I'm just going to McDonald's for the kid.
yeah,
I'm not going there for me. I'm going there for
yeah,
the kids.
right.
And we have a Sonic just up the road, and I tell you, I get pretty lazy some nights, and we just look at each other and we're like, let's just get some Sonic, and that happens like once a month.
Right.
So we're like, let's get some Sonic. So I know the Sonic menu quite well.
Yeah.
And it's the closest thing. And when Amanda was pregnant, it was like every other day she wanted an orange cream slush. So it was like whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to what we're talking about, quarter pounders.
Back to hamburgers.
Hamburgers, which are, I mean, probably like, which I think is the term for a room temperature McDonald's burger that was bought
Fast
2
food
hours ago. Yeah,
and then put on a silver platter
if there's something we
in the White
know,
House.
if there's something we know about fast food, it tastes best when it's been sitting out for an hour.
Especially the French fries.
Especially the French fries. Well, hey, they had those under heat lamps.
I mean, look, who among us has not eaten like a couple of French fries they found at the bottom of the bag 2 hours later?
Oh yeah.
Who among us?
Like you get into your car and you're like, well, that McDonald's bag is still there. Better throw that out. Oh,
ooh, there's a French fry. What are these?
When did I have this? I don't know. It's fine. It's McDonald's. It can't. Like it's like impossible to grow mold on McDonald's food.
Well, yeah,
it's
definitely not decomposing for at least 30 years. So you don't have to worry about that. But no, but seriously though, like, okay, so where this whole so for our listeners, where this whole conversation started was with Clemson's visit to the White House, and we have a Slack chat room basically for all the Coug Center authors, and let's just say, without getting too in depth into what we talked about, that it was one of the more robust discussions that we've had
in a long time,
in some time, for sure. And sort of, one of the things that I thought was funny is we just sort of all agreed, like, oh my God, we can't believe he served them McDonald's. Like that's like, we're just like,
And I'll say, like, we're not offended by it. We're
no,
not like it doesn't offend me.
It doesn't offend us.
I'm not even like it's more of it's so on the nose that it's like it's too much. Like it's like if someone like the Onion probably was like, God damn it, and they crumbled up like a draft they were writing because they didn't think Clemson was going to be there for another couple months, and they're like, damn it, what, are you kidding me again?
Where like reality exceeds even what the Onion could have come up with,
Oh, just off topic though, I saw there was an Onion article today about Fox News creates new 24-hour network to just cover to Alexandria Cortez. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and it was just like that's too well. I mean, that's too real.
Would you believe it? Would you
anyway,
believe
so back to the hamburgers. So here's my biggest beef with them. It's like, dude, get some better fast food. Like, you,
Dude, there's a Five Guys down the road.
there's a Chick-fil-A. Like,
There's
come
a
on.
Chick-fil-A in DC. Like,
Chick-fil-A caters too. Like, you just get
yeah.
those trays of nuggets. Those nuggets are so good. Like, they crush McDonald's nuggets out of the park. Like,
Yeah.
and then like trays of them chicken sandwiches. Get the Five
Yeah.
Guys in there. Although Five Guys also does not age well.
Oh,
But
I'm sure.
Chick-fil-A actually does age pretty well because one time, I'll tell you, when we lived in Vermont, there was not a Chick-fil-A for, well, actually, I think there was one in Nashua, New Hampshire, in a strip mall, and we definitely went there once specifically to go to it. But so because we had lived in Tennessee and we had just been like Chick-fil-A is so good, oh my God, and so I on my way back to Vermont from a work trip, I went through the Atlanta airport, and they have a Chick-fil-A there, and so I got uh, uh, two their breakfast sandwiches, which are amazing. Like if you've only ever had their dinner,
Yep.
the biscuits are like,
Yep.
how is a fast food place have biscuits this good? I
Yep.
don't understand.
Yep.
So I got one for Amanda, and I say like I had basically like a 3 hour flight back to Burlington, Vermont, and then drive down to our house. And so that thing was like 4 hours old. She just popped it in the microwave and had a nice little. She was so grateful to have that Chick-fil-A.
Perfect.
But anyway, so yeah, I'm thinking like, dude, like I
Yeah.
would have had so much more respect if you just upped your fat. Like there's Shake Shack right there.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh,
man,
I mean, I'm just
yeah,
like,
Smoke Shack, man.
yeah.
Just
I mean,
love
it's
that.
the same. I land in the same spot. I'm just like, okay, first of all, this is absurd, right? Like, this is so, like you said, on brand,
But I
right?
loved it. It's funny things I loved it. Like I was just like, uh,
Yeah.
it's funny. Like like it was just like I think it hit about like 2 in the afternoon, and I was just like, I'm not working the rest of the day. But I totally did. Like I'm joking. I
Yeah.
totally did. But anyway, but it was just like it was just like what the hell, and like and then our Slack just exploded, and
Right.
just like so many people on Twitter. It's just like, wow,
And then
this
we've
is like
got and then
this
we've
is.
got Michael trying to figure out exactly how much the president spent on this, right?
And then the realization that there's like everything from McDonald's was on the 2 for $5 menu
Right.
outside
Like,
of the salads. Like
yeah.
it's like,
Dude who says he's worth billions of dollars orders from
hey
the two
Jeff,
for
you
five
you
menu.
don't get to be a billionaire without buying your McDonald's. I'm saying.
Yes, I suppose that's true. I suppose that's true.
And this dude is a connoisseur at McDonald's, so
Yes, he is. That is without the bun though, because there's too many calories in the bun. You know.
well, if you don't exercise because you don't want to use all your heartbeats, you got to cut the calories out. So.
You've only got so many heartbeats left. You don't want to use them on the extra stuff like walking.
Definitely not.
Definitely not.
But yeah, overall, it's just like, and people are like, "Oh, the players loved it," and I'm like, the players probably thought it was funny, like we did. I bet
Right.
the players would really love the steak.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Or like I
like,
said, get them some fast food that they don't eat all the time.
I
Like,
know, because yeah, like
you
they
know.
definitely eat the Wendy's like the Wendy's like wraps or whatever. Like they like a college kid would be definitely hitting up that 2 for $5. Like, oh hell yeah! Like you can get a Big Mac and a 6-piece McNugget for $5. Like, give me
Yeah.
that every
Yeah.
day.
But now
Like
that
I
I'm a
kind of want to
now
get
that
one
I'm
right
a grown up, I want like real food. It's like give me like if I'm going fast food like Chick-fil-A, right? Chick-fil-A is not cheap. Like it's fast food, but it's not cheap, right?
now. Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like but I'm like I'm a grown up now and most of the time I'd like to eat, grown up food. So maybe the president could have introduced these young men to like, okay, you're national champions now. We're going to spring for the Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
We're gonna spring for the the Shake Shack. We're gonna introduce you to. And by the way, those are all still American companies. Since he made it a point to make sure everybody knew he ordered some fine
What is more
American fast food.
American and right-leaning than Chick-fil-A? Like,
Totally,
come
that
on.
was my first thought.
Chick-fil-A is America. Come
Chick-fil-A,
on.
yeah. Anyway,
But
right.
yeah, but yeah, it's That's mostly tongue in cheek, but like seriously, no. Here's what I'm saying. Like people are like, "Oh, college kids love fast food. College kids love fast food because they only can afford fast food. Like that's why.
That's why they love
Like
it.
if you're going to an event at the White House where they typically, but obviously they don't right now, have like a chef and stuff. Like it, like I equate it to like when the when like parents' weekend when someone's dad and mom would take you out to dinner and you're like you get to go to like a real restaurant and like you're like you're like oh my god I get to eat
I could eat real food.
protein. I get to eat protein. Like, but instead it's like, nah, this is the same shit you eat every day.
Let me
Like,
go.
like
Let me go buy you 4 pizza pipelines. Here you go,
dude,
guys. I got you
how
some pizza
amazing would that
pipeline.
if they just
And it's
put on the
like, oh,
table like
thanks.
four 28-inch pizzas. Here
Yeah.
you go, have at
Here
it.
you go. They were 2 for 1 if you carry them out. I sent the Secret Service.
I do want to know more about the acquisition process.
Kind of do.
Like
I
just
want to imagine that he
how can you
ordered
get
from
just a
Uber.
regular McDonald's or make that many Big Macs?
Yeah. Like I want to imagine that he ordered it on Uber Eats and then just like typed it in and went like I don't know if I don't
Well,
know how often
he
you
would now
order
order
that,
on Uber Eats. Like, there's
right?
no way he'd know how to use that.
Oh
But
no, no.
like,
But he uses his phone, right? So I want him. I want to imagine him like sitting, probably like sitting on the toilet or something like the rest of us, right? Where you're like
at
on your
three
phone
o'clock
on
in
the
the morning.
toilet, right? And all of a sudden it hits him. He's like, I'm gonna, McDonald's, yeah, let's get a McDonald's. And so he's like, Uber Eats. He's like, what's his Uber Eats app? And so he opens it up and he's like, oh, I could order it here and have it delivered. 300 quarter pounders. Push a send, right? And then like I don't know like if anybody else has ordered Uber Eats before, but it's like if you haven't, then you don't know that a lot of times they will call you right back to sort of
Yeah,
verify your order
yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever, right? So I'm just imagining like this phone call. So like I'm just like imagining this whole like fiction process where he orders 300 quarter pounders with cheese, and someone calls back and goes, uh, like, did you really mean 300 quarter pounders with cheese, or did you mean like 30 or maybe even 3?
Three,
Nope, 300. I want 300. Bigly, 300,
and they better be
whatever,
2 for $5 every
right?
single one of
And they all better be on the 2 for $5 menu. So I expect that these will be 2 for $5. I'm a math
so
major.
so
I
I
made
have an
millions of dollars.
I have an Uber Eats story. So I think like 50% of the time I've used Uber Eats or Grubhub or whatever. It's usually I'm on the road for work and it's like late, and I usually like I went to a beer bar and like I come home and I'm a little drunk and I'm like, I could use a burger, and like at that point at night, like McDonald's is the only thing. McDonald's or Denny's is like the only thing on there, and so I had that in San Antonio after the WSC bar crawl the night before the game. I get back and I'm like, I want some chicken strips, like really bad. Like, and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I ordered them and I pushed send, and then immediately was like, this shit's not gonna be here for half an hour, and I want to go to sleep. Like I'm like, oh,
Right.
this sucks. So I'm just thinking, I gotta wait, and then I'm gonna have to eat. Then I'm gonna eat the food. So I'm like, I'm gonna be up for another hour. Like, because I'm gonna have to take a shit after that, like, because it's gonna go through immediately, and it's just like, uh, and it was like a miracle. I get a call from McDonald's, and they're like, sir, we're gonna have to cancel your order because we're only serving breakfast now. It's like, it's I literally said it to him like, oh, thank you. I did not want that order. Like, I did not. I just want to go to sleep. And they're like,
Yeah.
and they laughed at me. And I was like, thank you so much. I didn't actually want that food. I
You know
didn't
what
know
though?
what I
I'm
was
surprised you didn't like drunk order egg McMuffins or something after that though.
like,
Like,
oh,
oh no, I thought I
yeah.
wanted chicken strips, but now I really want an egg McMuffin.
Like, so, do you have
Yeah.
any like leftover chicken strips that you'll throw
Yeah.
onto a muffin?
Yeah. Like one of those triple decker breakfast
Well, it's funny
sandwiches.
because there was a Whataburger that was like a 10-minute walk from my hotel, and Whataburger is like a Texas chain. I don't think I've ever eaten there. And so I was like, oh, maybe I go to Whataburger. And I was like, and they're 24 hours, but I was like, I don't want to walk anywhere for 10 minutes because I'm doing the math. Like, okay, if I walk there and walk back, and
Right.
then I waste food, it's at least a half an hour. And so I'm like, well, 30 minutes, I'll just order Uber Eats. I had immediate buyer's remorse, immediate like Brexit style buyer's remorse, and just like, but luckily for me, I got that immediate gratification of like, no,
Yeah, yeah.
we're not we can't make any of this for you.
If only the Brits were so lucky.
Well, it's funny because then Uber had to call me because like Uber had to because I wasn't able to cancel the order anymore inside the app. So Uber had to call me to make sure that I wanted to cancel the order. And 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 I think they were surprised that I answered and that I was polite because like
And
the
that your answer
person
was
was like
yes. Yes, I wanted that canceled.
Uber person was like, "Thank you so much for answering the phone." And not in like it seemed like really genuine like she's like holy shit they answered the phone because they
It's,
probably have to call these drunk people like 100 times and
I'm
then when they
sure.
finally get a hold of me like where's my food, where's my food, I need my food right now. Like
Right.
but it was just like I'm sorry, I'm drunk and I'm tired and I got shit to do tomorrow. I got to start drinking again in a couple hours. So,
What else should we talk about?
all right. Well, um, you know, I so I was thinking like, since we're both like in the know, uh, with pop culture specifically, like
Yeah,
we know
clearly.
about our Benefers and our whatever Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, they're probably together. So I don't know. And we know, like I'm reading my In Touch magazine every day. I think it's weekly, but I read it every day. But yeah, so I think we should hit on some important pop culture topics. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna click over to Twitter, and I'm gonna go change not Seattle trends. Screw that. Let's go national
Nah,
trends.
yeah, we want national
How do you
trends.
do that even? It won't let me. I don't know how to do it. See, I don't even know how to do that. Uh,
Man. It's like,
trend in Twitter.
well, like I'm seeing one here that says, "Where's Mitch?" Hashtag Where's Mitch? I have no idea what that is.
Mitch Haniger, probably, right?
Probably Mariners baseball player. Where's Mitch? All right, I'm
Like,
clicking
where's
on that.
Mitch? Like,
Oh, this is politics. Oh, where's Mitch McConnell? See, we don't even know
uh,
what's going on.
we've already talked about AOC.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot.
AOC.
Oh, The
Uh,
Masked Singer has 30,000 tweets tonight.
uh,
Did you watch The Masked Singer?
never will I
What's wrong
watch
with
this.
you? No?
Why does that exist?
Because people need ratings.
No,
That's
but here's what the show is. Because I saw the pre. So every time it's just someone singing, and then they take their mask off and it's a celebrity.
yeah,
So that's
totally.
what it. So why is the second episode fun?
Yeah, I
Like,
don't
I
know.
don't understand. Like, oh my god, it's another celebrity. Like, I want it to be like a mass, like it's like Mass Singer, and then it's just like Bob from Scottsdale, and they're like, who the hell is this guy? Hey,
Yeah, I'm like,
we never said it was gonna be Lady Gaga every time, all right?
yeah, I mean, I'm like looking down here and I'm actually kind of disappointed that all of these are just like GIFs and memes and stuff and that they're not actually telling me who our mass singers are. Like I'm sort of disappointed right now.
It's actually most of the tweets are why this show is dumb. Why am I watching this show?
Yeah,
Like, I still don't understand why the unicorn is here. I don't
Wait,
know what that means.
was Peyton Manning one of them? I don't know. I'm seeing a Peyton Manning gif from when he was on Saturday Night Live, banging kids in the head with a football. Do you remember that one? Did you
Yes,
see that one? We're
that's
so old.
that's some up to date
That's
relevant pop culture.
classic pop
You
culture.
know, you know, you have this sketch comedy show, and what better person to host it than a football player? And 10 years ago, and it was hilarious. And then Peyton was, he is what he is now. And
Apparently, Let's see. I'm looking here. Apparently, the peacock was Donny Osmond or something.
They shouldn't be actual singers. That's lame.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it should be like you and me. Like that'd be awesome.
I feel like most of the trends are sports stuff. So that's
They
like,
are. It's like I think it's tailored to the stuff that we like. Well,
oh,
and not only me. Like I'm looking at. So I'm looking at the Coug Center Twitter because I don't have Twitter anymore.
here, I'm
So
going
it's
Billboard Top 100 and see if either of us have heard this number one song
okay. There
or
we
know
go.
what it is. But you have like a 12-year-old, so he
Like,
probably hear. Okay.
uh,
Oh no. So the number one song is called Sunflower from the movie Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which actually looks pretty good.
I've heard of the movie.
Um,
I've never heard this.
it's by Post Malone and Sway Lee.
Oh dear. I have heard of
Now,
Post Malone.
the only reason I've heard of I was watching some show and he did a cover of Return of the Mac, which
Okay.
which I know that song, and
Yes. Yeah.
I have no
Speaking
idea
of
who's.
Kyle Sherwood.
Yeah, Kyle thought it was good. I didn't think it was good, but uh, Kyle's just loving that we've mentioned him twice, and we're definitely gonna hear about that. Sway Lee, no idea who that is. Like I know Post Malone is a rapper with like face tattoos, but Sway Lee, no clue.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't want to play the song because then we're gonna have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Because
My son
all
has
that.
started listening to a guy named Marshmello.
Oh,
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. These kids and their music. You would think I would absorb some things being a high school teacher, but no, not
oh, I
really.
see number 6, Happier,
Yeah, there it is.
Marshmello and
Yes,
Bastille.
Marshmello.
I do know Bastille,
Yeah, and happier.
but I've never heard of Marshmello.
Yeah, he really loves that song,
Is
man.
he in the style of Bastille? That kind of like synth pop rock like stuff? Like,
Yeah, yeah, they do play it on the end. I have heard it on the
oh,
end.
I've probably heard it then.
Yeah,
Although I've taken
yeah.
to just like listening to snippets of podcasts when I'm in the car,
I
rather
will
than
say
listen.
this. Listening to that is better than listening to Havana on repeat, which is what it was about a year ago.
Which one is
So,
Havana?
yeah. And I'm just like, yeah, so shoot me in the face. So I just, no.
So
Don't.
Mr. Post Malone has the number one song and the number 11 song and the number 13 song.
Wow, what a guy.
This guy is just like the
I'm due.
Michael Jackson of our generation. This
All right,
generation.
so here's what I propose. Between now and next week, let's both listen to like an entire album of Post Malone, and then let's report back. What do
Okay.
you think?
That's
That'll be part of our pop culture segment next week.
okay.
And
Let's do
I'm
that.
gonna give it an honest old guy review of Post Malone.
All right, let's do it. I think since I'm the younger guy, 8 years you're younger.
I know.
I'll
Practically
probably,
a child.
so I'll, I'll probably just, be down and hip with it.
Maybe.
Um,
I don't know. Maybe I'll like it. I probably won't, but
I've
maybe I
gotten
will.
really bad at listening to new music. Like I always just like, even like if it's a band I like I just listen to their album from 10 years ago, and then
Oh yeah.
like they make new albums, I'm like,
Oh
it's
yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
So there's this band I like called Blind Pilot, and they're like this kind of folky rock indie band. And when I was super into like folky indie rock was like 2008, and that's when it's actually I think no, I discovered them on NPR. Discovered.
Of
Um,
course. Like any
uh,
good liberal would.
yeah, and then so it's actually funny. Uh, Amanda's dad, my pseudo father-in-law, also found them like the same week, and so I got to be really cool and like the same band as like a 65-year-old, or I guess he was like 57 at that point. So I was really hip. But anyway, so Blind Pilot, like they've released like multiple albums since then, and I have them. Like just 'cause I'm like, oh yeah, I like them, but I barely listen to them. I still will be like, no, I'll listen to the original one. So they did a tour, and I am not alone. I know I am not alone because they did. Excuse me, the beer is coming back up. So they did a tour this year where they played a show, and they started the show by playing the first album front to back. And so I was like, I gotta go to that show. And
Yeah.
so, because the last time I had seen them live was like when that was their only album. So I was like, okay. And so, because I've always been like, yeah, I want to go see them, but they're gonna play a bunch of songs I don't know.
Right.
And so I go, and it was just amazing because it was just like 1 through 12, first album, like right in a row. And like you kind of realize that after about the third song, you're like, they're just playing the album front to back. They like they said. And then they played like their newer songs like after that. I'm like, this is how every concert should go.
That's
Like
pretty killer,
play
actually.
the album that I want to hear front to back. Because like if you really like if the thing like if you really love like one album by a band, you're gonna be lucky, and if it's their old one, you're gonna be lucky to hear like one song off of
Right.
it.
Right.
Like, because they were saying, like, we haven't played these songs in years. Like, we probably never played some of these live. Like, maybe, like, since because back then they weren't headlining tours. They were doing, like, 20-minute sets and stuff. So it's
Right.
like, but yeah, so I was at have you ever been to the Moore?
Oh yeah.
In the U
Yeah.
District? And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just a real intimate setting. It was really cool. Like, they did one song where they turned everything off. And because the Moore's acoustics are so good, they just played like their instruments not connected. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like my one concert a year. I'm so excited.
That would be
But
cool.
yeah, it was really cool. It was a really cool experience. I wish that all my bands that I like from 2008 would just play their albums from then and don't bother with the new music, and then that'll be fine.
Yeah, and get off our lawn while you're at it.
And get off my goddamn lawn. Um. So that's. I mean, we're talking about music from 2008, so we're obviously hip and in the know. I'm drinking beer from 2009. Back when I was living on Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
I was a real hip kid back then, man. I was like in the know.
I had a
And
child born in 2009.
yeah,
My
yeah,
second
your
child.
second child.
My first child was born in 2007. Yeah,
Well, you've only had one more since then, so really, what's
that's
the
true.
difference?
I had another one in 2012.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I just
which
have one kid.
which was the same year the last time we won an Apple Cup. So it's
Yeah.
oh,
When
did I just
when,
bring
when
the podcast down? Did I just
yeah.
ruin it?
Shut up, Jeff. No, we already talked about basketball enough for that.
I know.
But anyway, so
Leach win an Apple Cup? Huh? Why doesn't he focus on winning? Anyway, I'm just kidding.
I would rather they go 1-11
And win
beat
the Apple Cup.
Huskies
Win the
rather than going 11-2.
11-2. If you don't beat the Huskies,
If you
doesn't
don't beat
mean
the
anything.
Huskies, what does it even matter?
Don't
Like,
beat UW.
God, just win the Apple Cup. I work with this guy. He's such a dick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so speaking of kids, as I mentioned, I have a 1-year-old, and the thing about having a baby is that you just cannot go to a movie theater with the baby, because that's like a like I'm not sure if it's like punishable by death, but
Yeah.
I think like you might be death by angry mob.
Maybe.
Or like just the stares you would get if you're just like holding this baby walking in and everyone's like, "Are you serious right now?"
Can you imagine just walking in
Like
with a
the
baby
guy,
and everybody's just like, what?
the guy who's like on his phone like looks at you like, "How dare you?"
Right. Even he is offended by the presence of your kid.
So I've been to some movies like since then, but like Amanda could not bear to like get away from the baby for 2 hours up until maybe a couple months ago. And her parents were over, and it was a Tuesday, which is the cheap day at the movie theater in Tacoma. And I shouldn't say that, but anyway, so yeah, so we went to see Aquaman. So that was the first movie that we've seen together in a year and a half or something. I don't know, a long time, which is kind of weird. And then Aquaman is, Okay. I guess I could have talked about that in pop culture.
Yeah.
That Jason, what's his name? What a hottie.
Yeah. Sexy. We should all grow beards and long hair.
And have 12 packs on our
Yeah.
stacks.
Keto. That's why I'm on keto.
Yeah, you're gonna
Working
get
on my
that.
12 pack.
You're gonna get that 12 pack.
Gonna get that
You're
12
gonna
pack.
you're gonna get a starring role in a DC movie.
Yeah, for sure. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's only after I do my Marvel movie though.
But the best thing while we were at the movie, uh, we Jeff, you've seen my our living room kind of table.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like this marble with very sharp edges.
Uh-huh. It's perfect for a small child.
And so B, who is walking around and all this stuff now, like while we were gone, just biffed it right in the eye on the thing.
Oh.
So we get back from the movie. Uh, Amanda's mom's like, I have to tell you, she has a black eye. So we finally had to put these like foam,
Yeah.
like protective on the outside. Because
Yeah.
every time she's like walking by it, I'm like, she's gonna hurt herself. And she just
Yeah.
like hits her head on it, and she's like, I'm fine.
Yeah. I'm
You're
tough.
like, really? Because
Well,
I'd be
it's like
crying.
it's part of parenting is both trying to protect your kid and also recognizing that you can. So my experience in parenting this week, I kind of referred to it earlier. So my son, my middle son, the one that was born in 2009, oddly enough, we were up in Marysville at a birthday party for my nephew, who is the same age as my youngest son, so he's turning 7, and he had it at a trampoline park. Now, I don't know how many of our listeners like have had any experience with one of these places. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, it's basically a giant warehouse full of these interconnected trampolines where kids can just literally run and jump to their heart's content. Most of them are just kind of open trampolines. Some of them, like, they've got basketball hoops that you can jump on a trampoline and dunk on or whatever, right? One of the things they had like a jousting station, so I'm like watching this, right? And there were probably like, I don't know, 12 kids at this birthday party. And there's like hundreds of kids in this place. It's insane. They had like 18 birthday parties going on at the same time on a Sunday afternoon. And so there's all these kids, and there's like I said, like maybe a dozen kids for the party we're at. And I kid you not, out of the 12 kids, there were at least 3 that sustained injuries. Not owies, not like, oh, I got like a little burn on my leg from, falling down on the trampoline or something. I'm talking like injuries. So like my kid was chasing somebody on the trampoline and trying to jump and apparently twisted his ankle. I didn't see it happen, man. There's like 300 kids out there. But twisted his ankle, sprained it. So he was out for a couple days, dealing with that. And my wife stayed home one day, I stayed home the other, and went back to school today. So he's all good, but it's like, okay, like legit had to miss 2 days of school because he went to this trampoline park. Another kid chipped a tooth. Because I mean, the thing is, if you've never been to one of these places, it's 300 kids jumping on trampolines and colliding with each other.
Well,
right?
and what is the most, like, when I was growing up, like the guaranteed like injury, like the kid that got the trampoline in the neighborhood.
Oh, totally.
Like someone was like, everyone that spent any time on it, you were coming away with a broken something. Like it was guaranteed.
Right. Somebody was going to get a little too excited and bounce themselves right off the trampoline, right? And then the third kid,
And
so we
got
got
300 kids,
right,
which is just unmanageable.
Yeah, all in the same place, and like 5 teenagers who are like checking their watches every 30 seconds, right? Who are supposed to be monitoring, and so my kid sprains his ankle, another kid chips a tooth, and then the third kid, I'm pretty sure, got a concussion. Like I'm just like, so
start him early.
So here's the thing, though, like you got to sign like 5 pages worth of legal waivers just to get in the door, right? And I'm thinking, this is brilliant. Like you put together this place and the parents bring their kids willfully, knowing that they're probably going to get hurt. And it's like, you don't have to do anything. You're just like, nope, you signed a waiver. Sorry. Here's an ice pack, which is kind of what happened. Right. I went and I'm like, well, the funny thing was like, so Tristan hurts his ankle. And I'm like, okay, well maybe they have an ice pack I can use. So I go up to the counter and I'm like, hey, do you guys by any chance have an ice pack? And she's like, oh yeah. And then she like goes into the back, comes back like a minute later, with one of those like, instant cold ice packs. And I'm just like, oh no, they've done this before.
Oh, they do this
Like,
all the time.
they do
That's
this
the one
all
thing
the
they're
time.
good at. We don't need to watch the kids. The
Yeah.
injuries will come to
Yeah.
us, and we will give the ice pack.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is, if you take your kids to one of these places, there's kind of like a 75% chance that they're going to be fine and just wear themselves out and then pass out in the car, or a 25% chance that they're going to hurt themselves. So that's like
Just
lesson number one.
banking on the severity of that
Yeah.
injury.
And lesson number two is, if you have a chance to invest in one of these suckers, you should totally go for it. All of the upside, none of the risk, because all these kids are getting injured and they've signed away their ability to get you for it. So it seems like a pretty good deal to me. I don't know.
Do you think do they have like adult nights?
That's a great question. All I know is if they had adult night, that ratio would get flipped. Like, 75% chance of injury, 25% chance of just getting tired and passing out in the car afterwards.
Do you remember Slam Ball?
I think I broke my hip. Like, that would be me. I'd be like, yes, I remember Slam Ball.
Now that was a show. That was a sport. And that like had some gruesome ass injuries, and those were like really good athletes.
Yeah.
And I remember in high school just watching that show at various levels of state of mind, and it was just like that's how cool me and my buddies were. We would get together on Sunday night and turn on like whatever Spike TV or whatever it was back then.
Yeah,
and watch
I want no part
Slam
of that.
Ball.
I want no part of that, man.
No, yeah, but it looked like so fun, and now I'm like,
did.
no.
Yeah, no.
That's
hard
like,
pass.
I'm gonna break my arm like immediately.
Yep. 100% chance.
All right, man. We're deep. What did we say? 45 minutes. I think we're 45 minutes before we got even.
Yeah.
Do
you think anybody's still listening?
My mom is.
Your mom is.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah. Sarah probably has to listen. Hi, honey.
Oh, Amanda is not listening to this. There's no way. She's like, I have to listen to you talk all the time. I don't need to hear more.
No, I'm not listening to a recording of you talking.
All right, so Jeff,
you think I am crazy?
This podcast sucks. It's terrible.
Yeah,
we don't care.
You should definitely listen to a better one.
So, what's a better one?
So one, obviously, this might be a little cliche, but it's still worth mentioning. I love Serial podcasts, including the original Serial.
Oh, the original Serial's the best.
Yes, and they just, it's not too recent, within the last couple months, finished up their third season, and it's fascinating. It's a great look at the criminal justice system in Cleveland, and it just raises a lot of big questions about sort of how that system works, why it works the way it does, the way that it doesn't work, who it works for, who it doesn't work for. Just a really excellent, thought-provoking series. So I can't recommend the third season of Serial enough. It's different than the previous two, where they just sort of tackled one big thing, like a case, So anyway, really excellent. Totally worth your time. Highly recommend.
So I have traditionally, I think I've expressed this to you before, have not been a huge podcast guy, but I am getting into them more. Like, during football season, I enjoy listening to the Saturday Cast. I enjoy listening to Coug Center Hour, but those are both a given. I'm sure most people who listen to this listen to those already. But so in my beer nerd realm, there's a newer podcast that's been on for about half a year at this point. They do weekly episodes. So there are quite a few episodes if you just want to dig in. 26 or like 30 or so by now. It's from a prominent beer blogger who's kind of this. He was known for his being very verbose. He's a lawyer by trade, which most people who write blogs are, and he is just a hilarious beer reviewer. He's vulgar at times. Like he makes fun of the craft beer nerd culture quite a bit. But he started a podcast. It's called Malt Couture, which is it kind of speaks. It's a beer and comedy podcast, which is probably the only one that exists in that
That's
realm.
a pretty good combo.
So what he did is he's like a bigger beer nerd than me even. Like he's a really big beer nerd, but he brought on two of his buddies basically that he's met through like sketch comedy groups and stuff because he likes to do some sketch comedy. So he's got his one friend that's probably like on your level of beer nerdery, Jeff. Like you mostly like the stuff you're getting is like you're coming across like you're not like actively going to like a beer release
Right.
and waiting in line.
Right.
You're not trading for something out of state or whatever.
Right.
Like you're mostly buying stuff that you find on a shelf somewhere. Like you'll go to like nicer beer stores specifically to find
Right.
more beer, but you're not like going out of your way to like get a good beer because honestly you don't need to go out of your way to get good beer these days.
Right.
So one of his friends is just like at that level, and then the other guy is like doesn't know shit. Like, and he's just like, and he's like they bring in, and I'll spoil the first one, but like they do a beer share at the last segment of the episode is a beer share. So the guy that hosts brings like some like really nice beer. And then the other guy brings like a craft beer that he found at like the Total Wine or whatever, and then the other guy, like the first episode, he brings a Modelo, like so they're like doing this fancy beer tasting, and he's like Modelo, and he's so funny, like he's like an actor, but he's like more of an aspiring actor, but he's done some stuff, like he's actually if you ever seen the skits on the Fox NFL morning show on Sunday, like he's regularly in a lot of those skits that they do. But he's a pretty funny guy, and he like just the three of them are, and they do all these like bits where it's like you could tell they're like improv comedy guys. Like they'll set up little bits and like they'll talk and like, but it's very free form, like kind of this. Like they just have a basic structure and they're just chatting, but they're really funny. Like I think like they're really long, like they're 90 minutes to 2 hours long. And I usually just listen to it in pieces, because like it's funny enough. Like even when they're just like talking about their sponsor or something, it'll be like really funny. And so yeah, I really enjoy it. Because sometimes I'm like I get enough of like the serious beer nerd reviewing stuff just from like my life. Like so I've like just make fun of it all, and it's pretty fun to listen to. So I recommend Malt Couture if you feel like listening to 2 hours of people babbling on about beer and the beer industry. But yeah, so both those better podcasts than this one. So
For sure.
so yeah, I think we're pretty good. So you can, if you have any questions or comments, or just beware, we might make fun of you if you send us something.
But the good news is we'll also make fun of ourselves. So everybody will be in good company.
So podcast.versusvs.everyone@gmail. You don't have to put the dots in, as Jeff pointed out to me. But podcastversuseveryone@gmail. I still have social media. I'm like Jeff. You can follow me at the Craig Powers on Twitter and Craig W. Powers on Instagram if you like pictures of beer and my child. Jeff, do you have anything to mention?
Yeah, I mean, if you made it this far, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Because this was definitely
Center
bad.
too. But you definitely follow Coog Center if you're listening to this. There's
Yeah.
like no way not.
Yeah, that's
Like you
probably
didn't
true.
stumble upon this.
No.
Oh, what's this podcast? Oh, an hour and 45
I
minutes.
think I'm gonna listen to 90 minutes of two guys.
Who are these guys? Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. You should definitely listen to us next week. It might be better. Probably not, but it might be. You'll have to listen to find
it
out.
might be more crisp. I don't know.
We'll see.
maybe I'll. I'm about 15 ounces into this 10.5%, and it's tasting really good. Like I'm excited about it now.
That's
Uh,
good. Tell all your
yeah,
beer nerd friends about how you drank a 10-year-old
double bastard.
double bastard from Stone
Yeah.
and
You
impress
know
them
what's funny is like
or discuss them, one or the other.
they
And you'll be
definitely
like,
like,
no, really, it's good. I promise.
so none of the double bastards ever had like a year on them, but this one specifically does. So they obviously on purpose released like 2009, like we'll release some old stuff, and they like branded it. Because I
Yeah.
remember when the friend that bought it for me, it was probably like 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. So I've had it like sitting since then. There's definitely dust, like, and the dust where it's like caked on,
Yeah.
like you got to get like a wet nap to like get this stuff off. Like you can't just like take your finger and run it along. It's definitely on there. Um, but yeah, so that was the oldest beer I had in my cellar. So now I think probably something around 2012 is the oldest.
Good job.
So if
Also,
this
the last time we won an Apple Cup.
now I have to drink all my 2012s. Well, no, I have to save my 2012 for the next time we're in an Apple
That's
Cup.
right. You might never drink it.
I do have a couple 2012 abysses. We talked about the abyss
Ooh.
earlier.
Ooh. I'm coming.
Actually, I think I drank one. I think I drank one with my dad the other day, so I might only have one.
Ooh.
Because I'm just at the point where like I need to drink some of this freaking beer, this fucking beer.
Yeah.
I don't care, given that explicit.
Yeah.
I need to drink
Oh,
something
yeah.
because I have so much. But anyway, so thank you for listening. We're gonna try to make this a weekly thing. We're gonna probably talk about the same stuff. Talk about beer. Talk about WSU. Talk about liberal politics and pop culture. You got to come back next week for our Post Malone review.
Yeah.
Some of you people who are over the
Maybe
age
I'll
of
get a
50.
face tattoo.
Oh,
I know he's got those.
the great thing about a podcast is if you don't have to get one and just tell people you did.
I could just tell people I got a face tattoo
Yeah,
because Post Malone inspired me.
yeah. Like I loved him so much that I wanted to make this really good decision about getting a face tattoo.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, all right. Thank you for listening. Thanks, Mom, for listening. And we will talk to you next week.
Podcast versus everyone.